So now I believe the scope of the speaker has been expanded by the Honorable Apex Court, where the speaker is also authorized or called upon to decide who really controls the political party, which may not essentially, in its holistic way, be a part of the legislature. I'm not concerned about how an individual would perceive me, but I would be more concerned about how the nation would perceive me, because that really would have an impact on constitutional democracy and people's faith. An action on my behalf which has a clout of bias or unconstitutional approach would affect a common man's perception and belief in parliamentary democracy. We need to welcome this judgment and applaud the Supreme Court for upholding the values of constitutional discipline. As we are all aware that the Constitution provides for the three wings, which namely the executive, legislature, and judiciary, and it is mandated that all three of these wings function within the jurisdiction granted to them by the Constitution. Deciding on disqualification petitions filed under Schedule 10 is the sole prerogative of the Speaker, and it is the Speaker who has to take a decision on these petitions. And the court has rightly upheld the provisions of the Constitution by stating that it is only the Speaker who would be able to decide the fate of these petitions. So the Supreme Court has upheld the constitutional discipline that is expected to prevail in the country, and therefore I welcome that decision of the Supreme Court. Having said that, the Supreme Court has ruled on various issues which perhaps were not clearly interpreted in the past. For example, one crucial issue which they have highlighted is with regards to the decision of appointing a whip in the House. Now, if you see Schedule 10, Schedule 10 talks about political party and legislature party. While it gives the authority to the political party to appoint a person who would issue a whip or an authority who would condone voting against the whip. At the same time, the rules for disqualification, namely being the Maharashtra disqualification of members on the grounds of defection rules, they talk about a whip being appointed in accordance with a resolution to be passed by majority members who have been elected from that party. So there seems to be some kind of a disconnect between the text of the schedule and the contents of the rules which are framed under the schedule. Till now, the Maharashtra legislature whips were appointed based on a resolution which was passed by majority members of the legislature party. That was the process being followed for every appointment till now. So when I took the decision, it was taken based on the precedent before me and based on the provisions of the disqualification rules. Therefore, I had no reason to believe otherwise that I was required to do anything other than this. And in any event, I completely respect the judgment of the Honorable Supreme Court, like any other individual who believes in democracy and constitution of this country should. I do believe that the Speaker's role is more so restricted to conducting proceedings within the House and ensuring that the constitutional mandates and directions given in the Constitution with vis-a-vis the functioning of the House are followed. I am not too sure whether the Speaker really requires to get into the political arena of seeing who controls the political party, or per se, how does a political party function beyond the House. because I think that is more into the scope of the election commission and maybe the courts, so to say. But be that as it may, the apex court has now directed or called upon the speaker to also determine whether what was the desire of the political party, and so to say, who really represents the political party. So now I believe the scope of the speaker has been expanded by the Honorable Apex Court, where the speaker is also authorized or called upon to decide who really controls the political party, which may not essentially, in its holistic way, be a part of the legislature. So I'm happy to do so. And now that the provisions of Schedule 10 have been interpreted by the Apex Court, I would be mandated to work in accordance to the guidelines, which, so to say, are the interpretation of the provisions of the Constitution. So now, when I take a decision, it will be based on the guidelines or perhaps the interpretation of the Schedule 10 and the other constitutional provisions as given by the Supreme Court. As we all know that the process and the much asked question or the sought after question is with regards to reasonability of time, as to what amounts to reasonable time. Now we need to appreciate that reasonable time would include the following process. First and foremost, the speaker would have to determine who exactly was authorized to appoint the whip. Thereafter, who has been appointed as the whip and who should be recognized as the whip. So these are two crucial questions which cannot be determined unless we go to the bottom of the question, that is, who really was in control of the political party and who actually represented the political party. And this will go back to July 2022, when these petitions were filed and when there emerged to be a split in the party. Though, so to say, till today, as the Speaker of the House, I have not got a representation from any of the members of the Legislative Assembly belonging to Shiv Sena, stating that there is a split in the house, in the party. Therefore, I could not have taken on record, could not have recognized the split on record. So that is the factual position. And as you're aware that the process would involve finding out who was the leader of the party, who could have issued the whip, who was the authorized whip, recognizing that whip. Thereafter, I would have to get into the merits of each of the petitions. There are multiple petitions involving almost 54 MLAs. Therefore, I would have to get to the bottom of that. Again, after I do that, I would have to make all the provisions of CPC applicable to these proceedings. So it would involve giving an opportunity to every respondent and petitioner to put forth their case. They would have to file their written submissions. Some may ask for additional time, some which may or may not be granted depending on the request, depending on what case they put up. Then there would be leading of evidence. There would be examination in chief, there would be cross-examination, verification. So the entire process of CPC would be applicable to this. So with the quantum of proceedings before me and the kind of work that needs to be done, reasonable time will be determined or based on what are the merits of the petition. It's up to an individual whether he should be susceptible to pressure or not. If you know, if your conscience is clear and if you know what you're doing is in accordance with the provisions of the law and the rule, law of the land and the rules, then there's no question of being susceptible to any kind of pressure. And the ultimate test is with the people. I'm not concerned about how an individual would perceive me, but I would be more concerned about how the nation would perceive me, because that really would have an impact on constitutional democracy and people's faith in parliamentary democracy. Because an action on my behalf which has a clout of bias or unconstitutional approach would affect a common man's perception and belief in parliamentary democracy. So that is of a greater concern to me. See, there are multiple petitions that have been filed by either fraction, including, I mean, both the fractions have filed petitions against one another. And therefore, there are almost 54 MLAs who are a part of this disqualification petition under some or the other petition. So that's the fact with regards to the number of petitions. And your question with regards to who really is the whip. Now, the courts have clearly stated that whip should be appointed by the political party. Now, with regards to who the political party is, that is something also which the courts want the speaker to decide. And they have said you set up an inquiry into this and go to the depth of this and check, and don't depend only on the majority in the house. Also look at the factors beyond the house. So this is quite a complex process, which I will have to undertake before I come to a conclusion as to who would be the whip. I would like to conclude the proceedings with regards to these petitions at the earliest. I'm not in saying 8 months, 6 months. I would like to do them as soon as possible. But while I do that, what will be paramount is to ensure that the procedure is followed and the principles of natural justice are adhered to, and decision is taken based applying all the constitutional provisions.
So that will be before the monsoon session. Monsoon session.
Well, very difficult to state that right away, because I'll have to get into the merits of every petition.